Thank you. Thanks for attending today. We're going to talk about MySQL database service. This is a quick introduction to the new service. So I'm the product manager for the MySQL database service in OCI, and I'm happy to have you here. So first of all, our default safe harbor statement, and let's get started. So the MySQL database service is a fully managed service developed by the MySQL engineers, and it runs in OCI. So it's easy to maintain, easy to use. It has automated for you provisioning, patching, upgrades, backups. It's optimized with the best MySQL configurations that our engineers test for you. So, and also it's based on the MySQL Enterprise Edition. It's fully compatible with the on-prem installs. So it's natively integrated with the OCI, the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the next generation cloud. It's the generation 2 cloud, Oracle Cloud. So it's built with the security focus as its core, and MySQL is part of that, right, as a core service. So being part of OCI means that the service has REST API, it has the CLIs, SDKs, DevOps tools. It's also integrated with the basic core service like the networking, um, and events, audit, the identity management, and so on. So, and today the service is already available in multiple regions and quickly expanding. We are also adding more and more features we go. So, as I said, one key differentiator is this service is developed by the MySQL team, right? So it's the same team that develops the community version of MySQL, the enterprise version of MySQL, and now the team turned into a DevOps team that build the service. So we have multiple teams inside MySQL engineering. We have the server team, we have the backup team, the HA team, the high availability team, uh, some teams that build the middleware and clients. And now we have the MySQL control plane team, which builds the heart of the service, right? The control plane is the component that manages the service for you. So manage the instance for you and do all the magic and all the hard work for you. So, um, like I said, the MySQL team also the MySQL team built the service and also manage the service. So it means that it's a truly DevOps team that offers 24/7 support. So we do have the backend by the MySQL support engineers, and also the MySQL DevOps team monitor the service and make sure that everything is running uh, as expected. So we test the server together with the service. So the MySQL database server, the server component is tested together with the service. So it's we ensure that it's all compatible and that we have the latest version, all the bug fixes in place for our customers. So um, by doing so, we can actually keep the latest versions with automatic upgrades. So all the minor versions with the improvements for MySQL are automatically applied, and we test beforehand, and then we make sure that everything is running as expected. So uh, one more thing is the MySQL support team. So the support is included with the service. So this team, the MySQL support team has a lot of experience by supporting MySQL on-prem installations, and now it also covers, it also offers the same levels of support for the MySQL database service. So we support 24/7 SRs, service requests. You can open, and we will offer the best class of support that you can find in the market. One key differentiator of the service is also its cost. So it's if we compare with other managed service like RDS, Azure, or Google, you can see there's a lot of opportunity for savings here. We're talking about 3 times. Other service can cost more than 3 times, and we offer the service in many regions. So we charge the same price in all regions, and this is also a differentiator. In OCI, in Oracle Cloud, you won't pay additionally if you are running the service in São Paulo, for example. So these are the regions that we have the service running today. We are expanding, and you can stay tuned by looking into this link. So we also announce new regions in our release notes, and we are quickly expanding to more regions. So if you want to test the service, you can go to this URL here, oracle.com cloud free, and create a free account in OCI. So you can have access to all OCI service and also MySQL. You get $300 of credits. They are so you can test the service for free for 30 days. Let me just quickly show how you can get there. So if you go to oracle.com/MySQL, you can find all the information about the service. So you have a lot of content here, and also the pricing and the technical documentation. So if you click here in the free tier, you can go to the Oracle page to create an account if you don't have one yet, and you can click start for free and follow the process to create your account. There are some verification steps, and at the end, you have an OCI account that you can play with the service. So after when you are creating an account, it's important to mention that you select a region, a home region for this account. When you sign up to OCI, we create what we call tenancy for you. So you can, it's your virtual data center. And this tenancy is associated to a home region. So make sure you select a home region where you have MySQL available. So it's the easiest path to get the service running. Otherwise, you need to request subscribe to other regions, and it's a longer process. So select a region where the MySQL is already running, and then you are ready to go. So after you create your OCI account, you see a screen similar to this. So this is the OCI console. You can access using the URL that contains your home region, the region that you select while you create the OCI account. And from here, you can start to create, virtual machines, virtual networks, and start to use MySQL. So let me talk a little bit about the OCI basics. Then we can go deeper in the MySQL features, right? So as I said, OCI is available in many regions. So a region actually is a physical geographic area where the resources are hosted, right? So one region can have one or more ADs. availability domains. And one availability domain, you can think this as a physical data center, right? So in our geographic location, you have physical data centers, and you can have up to 3 data centers. And inside an availability domain, you have also default domains. Fault domains are another layer that you can it's available for you. It allows you to select physically where your VMs or your resources are running. You can think this as a rack, right? A computer rack, or a physical rack with a lot of physical machines and with independent power supply and proper isolation. So by using fault domains, you can group your resource, you can distribute your resource and make sure that they are not using the same hardware, and they are redundant across other physical computers, and make sure that you have a higher level of availability and even lower latency and so on. So this is a nice feature of OCI. So the ability to choose, the specific rack where you are running your resource, right? So in the console, you can easily select the region that you want to work on. So as I mentioned, when you create your tenancy, when you create your Orcon account, your OCI account, you choose a home region, but you can subscribe to more regions and using the same account, right? So we there's this concept of what I've mentioned, tenancy, and the tenancy is also known as root compartment. It's a logical grouping of your resource. So you can create multiple compartments under the tenancy and group your cloud resource when you are creating the resource in OCI. So as an analogy, you can think the compartments as your desktop folders, right? You can nest folders and use folders to put your files in and protect your files with permissions. So it's a similar concept here. You can create compartments, nest compartments, and have permissions, specific permissions to compartments. So it's a nice way to logically group and organize your virtual data center, which is your tenancy, right? Um, so yeah, and well, another core concept here in OCI is the virtual cloud networks. So you can create your virtual networks, and inside the networks you can divide it with subnets. So you create your subnets similar to physical networking. You have the same concepts here. So in the screenshot here, you can see that this is a VCN where you can see the resource associated with the VCN here, subnets, routing tables, internet gateways. So you can configure this virtual network as you wish with all the security that you need. And when you create, for example, a virtual machine, a regular virtual machine, you will select what's the subnet that the virtual machine will be connected with, and then you can access your virtual machine. Um, and of course, you can use compartments to organize all this. To be more clear when I present the interface here. So to get started with the MySQL database service, you create the VCN, and then you can access the menu here, and then DB system. And you see in the console instructions on how to create your first DB system or your first MySQL instance and start to play with it. So the same information that you can see here in the console is also in the documentation, the official documentation. So the link is here. You can also access from the help menu. So let me skip and show how it works in practice, right? So here is my console, right? I'm using my OCI account and I have a tenancy here. I can see my tenancy details here. This is my username. This is my tenancy name. And these are the regions that I can create resource on. So my home region is Ashburn, but I'm also already subscribed to other regions. So I'm creating resource here in Phoenix, for example. So and here, when I access the menu on the left, you can see the OCI service. For example, the networking service is here, and I can create the virtual cloud networks direct from here. So the easiest way to create a virtual cloud network is to use the wizard. It's really simple. I already have one here, but if you want to create another one, you can select if you want to connect to this network using the internet. Another way would be configure a VPN from your data center. But suppose I want to create a virtual cloud network with access to the internet. And then by starting the wizard here, I just provide a name and then I select the compartment. So I can select the root compartment, for example, but I can also place this network inside another sub compartment and get this more organized. So, and then I can provide the subnet information. So the CIDR blocks to create the subnets, right? So by clicking next, it just confirms all the information that I provide, and I can create by clicking create. So after create, I will have something like this, and into the VCN, the virtual cloud network, you can see I have a public subnet and a private subnet. Usually the database will be placed here in the private subnets, right? We don't want to expose the database to a public IP, so it gets much more secure. And your routing to web applications can be your load balancers can be attached to the subnet, or even your compute a virtual machine that will be your Bastion host. It can be placed here, so you can access from the internet. So with the VCN, I can start to create VMs, right? So I'm not talking about MySQL yet, but just to show how easy it is to create a new virtual machine, you just click here, create, give a name, then you can choose where the virtual machine is placed, right? Which physical data center, which AD. You can choose the operating system image. There are many pre-existing images. You can bring your own. You create your own image. You can select multiple shapes, which are the compute, the virtual machine size, right? The number of cores, CPUs, and also memory. So, and then you select the VCN. So the VCN, I already have one, right? And then this compute instance, for example, if it's a Bastion host, I can attach to the public subnet. And to access this virtual machine, I will use private keys. So I can just download the file from here or upload my own key if I want to. And click create. Then it will start to create a virtual machine for you, and you have a virtual machine running like this. You see the IP, the public IP address, and with the certificate, I can connect to this virtual machine with this command here. So SSH, the my file, my key file, OPC is the default user, and then the IP address. So then I can I'm connected to the virtual machine. Okay, so now I have a VCN, I have a compute instance, a virtual machine that can be my Bastion host, and I can create MySQL right now. So if I go to the MySQL menu here, DB systems, I can see that I already have a DB system here. If I choose another compartment, for example, temp, this is an empty compartment. There's a banner here that explains the prerequisites to create the MySQL DB system. Basically, it's the VCN we already have. If a group for my user, I already have. I'm part of the administrator group, and policies to enable uh, the tenancy to create the MySQL instance, right? So I can easily copy, paste, and just put my group names here in the policies. So in OCI, you can control your resource security using this feature here, the policies here, right? So let me see here. So identity policies, and for MySQL, I already have the policies in place, which are the same policies that we can see there. But if we want to create from scratch, you just can create a new policy here, right? So you just put the statements like we have there in the planner. So returning to the MySQL, so DB systems. Let me select the compartment where I already have an instance running. So suppose I want to create a new DB system. I click here and provide the DB system name. I can select where I want to place my DB system. So if I keep I can choose the AD one here. I can choose the shape of my DB system. So what's the VM that will run MySQL for me? So then I can, for example, select the smallest with 8 GB RAM, and I can inform the storage size, right? So how much data I want to store in this MySQL instance here, which is MySQL DB system. In the next page, one more thing here. I can by default it's optional, but if I can select a maintenance window, right? For example, a day in a week and an hour, that if we need to run any maintenance in the underlying systems, we will do that during this window time, so the user can control it, right? So in the next, let me check here. What's happening? So in the next screen, then I select the username. So for example, admin and the password. And then I select the networking, right? So where how will I access this DB system, right? So this is the existing VCN, then the subnet. I can choose the private subnet here to keep my database secure. I can give a host name to access this DB system using DNS. And the ports, the default port for MySQL is 3306. We also have in the service the support for the new X protocol. So you can use MySQL as a NoSQL data store. So and this is another differentiator of the service, right? Or, you know, this is a feature for MySQL 8 and it's already available in the service, so you don't need to do anything else. You can enable automatic backups, define the retention period here, 7 days, for example. There's a window where we run the backups once a day, so you can keep the default window or selector on. And then when you click create, it will make some verifications and start to create your DB system, right? It's possible that it gives you an error like you don't have limits to create uh, the DB system. If this is the case, you can try to select another region or ask to increase the limits. We have some limits by default, so it protects you. For example, with the access to you know, the APIs and SDKs, you can try to automate the database provisioning, and perhaps you create a script that creates a lot of instances and starts to consume a lot of resource. So we have this some limits that prevent from this kind of mistakes. So if you reach the limits, you can request a limits increase. So you can come from here and create a request direct from here. So if you click here, you see this page. Sorry, this I open another window. So it's the same page that it's available here. So governance, limits, costs, and usage. So you can select here the resource. For MySQL, you can choose other, for example, or anyway, this is where you can see the limits. If you want to increase more limits, you can click here and request direct from here. So you give your contact and select here for MySQL, for example, you can select others and specify how many instances you need more if you don't have enough, right? So back to our DB system, it takes some minutes to create DB system. Let me get a running DB system that are already created, so we can explore how it looks like after it's provisioned. So let me explain a little bit more what I mean by DB system, right? What's the meaning of a DB system here? A DB system is an abstraction of your MySQL instance or your MySQL cluster, right? You can have multiple instances under a DB system, or at least it's prepared to make you possible you to manage that, but you can also have a standalone DB system with only one MySQL instance. So you use the DB system to manage this single instance or multiple instances of DB system of multiple instances of MySQL under the same DB system, right? So you can see here, in this case, is a standalone DB system, and I can see, for example, the information, what's the MySQL version, what's the storage size, the IP to connect, what are the VCNs, and then I have metrics. So um, the MySQL database service is already integrated with the OCI monitoring service. So you can see the basic database metrics from here: current connections, active connections, statement count, and CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk reads, writes, and we are adding more. But the basic metrics are already here. Uh, then you in the menu on the left, you can click endpoints, and you can see how to connect to this MySQL DB system, right? So I have one endpoint here, which maps to this DNS and this IP address. We use only private endpoints because of security reasons. We know, it's a well-known fact that public IPs, so public database is exposed to public IPs are really dangerous, and there are many data leaks because of that. So we prevent that by by default we expose the database endpoint only to private IPs, so you are secure. If you want to route outside, you need to do some networking, some more work in the networking to do that. So, and then you also have the backups. So under the DB system, this is a new DB system, so I still don't have any backup here. Let me move to another one here, which has a more interesting view of backups. So if I click backups, so I can see that I have some automatic backups here. So my retention period is 7 days. So I have 7 active backups here. And it happens once a day. If I want to create an additional backup, I can directly from here. So just click create backup, and you can choose the name, if it's a full backup or incremental backup, what's the retention period, and then uh, click create backup. So it starts to create a new backup, a new manual backup. Um, and I still have the other backups here. So if I want to restore from this backup, it's a single click operation, right? You just come here and restore to a new DB system. So then I have a chance to define a new DB system with this data, right? With the existing data. And then I can choose another AD, for example, or I can change some configurations of this DB system, right? So it's really easy to clone your existing DB system using this feature here. Configuration. So this is another important thing here in the service. So by default, we offer these DB systems with some built-in configurations. So when you create the DB system, maybe I went too fast, but you can choose, you can select here the shape, but also you can select the configuration, right? So for this shape, I have two configurations. I have one default configuration, which is built in the service. It's the best values that we know for this shape, for this amount of memory and the amount of CPU. But also I can create a custom configuration if I want to change MySQL system variables, for example. If I want to change the the full connection method, or the SQL mode, or the out commit behavior, all these options that you have to configure MySQL, you can put here in a custom configuration, and then have create a new DB system based on this custom configuration, right? So let me explore a little bit one of these custom configurations here. So here are the MySQL options. You can define, you can edit this configuration and define those options, right? So you can change the values here. You can add more configurations or edit the existing configurations for this DB system, right? So for then DB system has these configurations associated with it, right? So for this specific configuration, I don't have any DB system use it yet, but if I select, for example, this one, I can see that I have all these DB systems using this configuration, and it's really easy to manage the different configurations that I can have in my system. So let me back here for MySQL. Okay. So here are the backups, right? The configurations. And also we have a new feature that we call channels. This is a feature that's in limited availability at the moment, but it will be available to the general public soon. You can, if you want to test, you can contact us and ask to test it. It's already available for testing. But this is about having MySQL replication working with this DB system. So this creates an asynchronous channel using the MySQL regular replication. The main usage of this feature today is, if you have your MySQL on-prem installation and you want to use OCI as your disaster recovery site, you can use this feature to do that. So you have your main database, your primary on premises, and then you create a channel to replicate from on-prem into this DB system here in OCI. So you just give the full parameters that people that already use MySQL replication know, right? So you just inform here the source, where is your source database? If it's an on-prem installation, for example, I need to have the networking setup ready, but I can define here my my host name or DNS or IP address, and then what's the username that I will use to replicate. This is the MySQL replication username, and then the target, which is the DB system, right? That will receive the data. So after I create a channel, I can see the channel running, and it manages the channel for me, make some health checks, and make sure that the replication is currently running well. So I think this is good for a quick intro. So let me return to the slides here, and I'll talk a little bit more about what we do behind the scenes to manage the database for you, right? So you saw I'm working in a customer tenancy, right? A tenancy that's a regular tenancy that you have access if you create an OCI account. What I have there is a virtual machine connecting that can connect with the MySQL DB system. So they are in different subnets, and I could, for example, set up a VPN from my on-prem installation connecting to this environment in OCI. Behind the scenes, when you create a DB system, what we do is we have a control plane here that provision a virtual machine in block storage for you configures for you with MySQL pre-installed, secure, and we also run regular health checks to make sure that your instance is running as expected. So another thing that you may want to do is, create a backup, right? Like I gave the example. So when you try to create a backup, you actually is sending, you send some request to the API service here to our control plane, and then it will start the workflow and make the backup for you. So it's not exposed for you all this complexity. What you see is only the DB system, and we manage the MySQL for you and make sure that it's running. So this is the biggest value of the service, right? Of course, we also integrate with other OCI service like the monitoring service. I've shown some metrics direct in the console, but in fact, this is part of the OCI monitoring service. So it's all available here from the monitoring service. And you can see that for MySQL, you can see that there's a namespace here, and you can see the metrics direct from here. You can set up alarms, and you can take advantage of all the features that the monitoring service, OCI monitoring service already offers to you. So um, uh, we also, when you make a backup, we make multiple copies of the backup in the OCI object store. So you have your backups in different physical locations, right? So it's all also integrated with OCI audit and a bunch of other internal service that, the service, the MySQL database service use behind the scenes, but you don't need to be worried about. Um, then let's talk a little bit about security compliance. This, one really important thing in OCI is the security, right? So the services are built using this, built by using this, strong security regulations, security compliance methodologies, right? So the MySQL database service is not different. So one example that we do is we don't expose the public IPs by default, and everything is encrypted, right? Data at rest, the communication is encrypted across all the data centers and so on. So I've already mentioned that you have access to the SDKs, to you can use the CLI, the OCI CLI if you want to automate things. There's Terraform providers available. So I've shown, I use the console to show how the service works, but you can use this command line tooling, right? So the policies, right? I've just mentioned that the default policies, but if you go to the documentation, you find many examples and all the policies that you can use to restrict access to a specific DB system, specific compartment, and so on. So here are some more examples, right? I won't go in too much details around this, but it's good to know. It's also important to know that we use the networking. LCI networking has, security lists, so you can define the security, the host that can access your endpoints by restricting the rules here in the security lists. And I also covered already the configurations and show some examples on how to what you can configure and how to configure a DB system. So one more thing. Let me see here. Right. This is already covered. Okay, connection to the DB system. You can use MySQL Shell or regular MySQL client tools. MySQL Shell is the new tool that we are working more currently. So you can use it to import data, export data to the service. It's highly recommended that you start to use MySQL Shell to interact with the service. And then uh, let's summarize. So as we've talked today, MySQL database service is the fully managed service um, built by the MySQL team, easy to deploy, manage, and use. It's natively integrated with OCI. It's developed by the MySQL team, maintained by the MySQL team. It's driving MySQL innovation, right? Because we are operating the service. MySQL on-prem is also getting better. Uh, the price is really competitive, and you can start today if you want. Just go to oracle.com cloud free, create your account. You can follow us on the social media. These are the main channels that we use to stay tuned. And we had this event, Developer Live. You can watch the replays there. There are nice hands-on labs, so you can get experiment MySQL and build a serverless application connecting to the MySQL. It's really cool. So I highly recommend the hands-on labs that we have there. And also we have recorded webinars. We have all these topics covered already. Tomorrow we are going to have another one. How to run Drupal using the service. But we already have other nice webinars like how to migrate from RDS to the MySQL database service. The URL is here, so feel free to go there and explore. And that's it. So thank you very much.